In the previous lecture, a brief introduction about laser was given. So firstly, we are going to see the history of laser in some more detail. So in 1916, the theory of stimulated emission was put forward by Albert Einstein. So this we have already said in the previous lecture also, that this stimulated emission process, this idea of stimulated emission was put forward by Albert Einstein in 1916. And one more thing over here, that in some books it's written 1916, whereas in some articles on internet and also in some books of the syllabus it's written 1917. So according to the syllabus of Punjab University Chandigarh, it is written 1917. So in 1917, the theory of stimulated emission was put forward. Then in 1954, Charles Townes, he used this phenomenon of stimulated emission to construct maser. So in 1954, the construction of maser was done. Now what is maser? Maser is microwave amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So over here, the light that comes out of this device, the photons that come out of this device, they lie in the microwave region. So it is called as a maser. So maser stands for microwave amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So in 1954, the first maser was constructed. Then in 1960, after about 6 years, in 1960, Theodore Mammon, he successfully constructed ruby laser. So the laser was constructed in 1960 by Theodore Mammon. Now the photons that come out of this ruby laser, they lie in the optical region, or you can say in the visible region. Whereas in the case of maser, the photons that come out of this device lie in the microwave region. So in 1960, the first laser was constructed by Theodore Mammon. Then after that, a series of lasers were constructed based upon the same phenomena of stimulated emission. So in 1961, the first gas laser. So by gas laser we mean that the gain medium that we use in this laser is a gaseous medium. So in ruby laser we use a ruby crystal, and in the case of gas lasers we use a gaseous medium. So in 1961, first gas laser was constructed by Ali Jawan and his associates. So in this gas laser which was constructed, the wavelength of the light emitted was equal to 0.6328 micrometer. And in the case of laser, this ruby laser, the wavelength of the photons which were emitted was equal to 0.6943 micrometer, which lies in the visible region. Then again in 1961, fiber laser was constructed. Then in 1962, semiconductor laser was constructed. And then in 1963, carbon dioxide laser was constructed, whose wavelength was, the light which was emitted by this laser had the wavelength approximately equal to 10.6 micrometers. Then in 1964, argon ion laser was constructed, whose wavelength was the light which was emitted, the photons which were emitted by this laser, they had a wavelength of 0.515 micrometer. And also in 1964, anti-YAG laser was constructed. So this is a brief history about laser. Now we are going to see the definition, the concept that we did in the previous lecture about spontaneous emission, stimulated emission and stimulated absorption. So now we are going to see the complete definition of these processes. So firstly we are going to see the process of stimulated absorption. So there are three optical transitions that can occur in a medium. So first is stimulated absorption, then is spontaneous emission, and at last we have stimulated emission. So firstly we are going to see stimulated absorption, or simply we call it as absorption. So in the case of stimulated absorption, what happens? Let's say the atom, it has two energy levels. One is the ground state and another is the excited state. So let's say the atom is present in the ground state. So if a photon is made to strike on this atom which is in the ground state, so if a photon of energy which is equal to the difference in the energy of these two states of the atom, so if such kind of photon is made to strike on this atom will absorb this photon. This atom will absorb this photon and it will go into its excited state. So this process is called as stimulated absorption, and in this case the condition is that the energy of this photon must be equal to the difference in the energy levels of the atom. So h nu, where nu is the frequency, so h nu must be equal to EB minus EA. So in some books it's also written as h nu. If you divide h by 2 pi and you multiply nu by 2 pi. So this h nu, it can be written as h by 2 pi times 2 pi nu. So this 2 pi nu is nothing but omega, which is the angular frequency, and h by 2 pi is written as h cut or h bar. So h by 2 pi is written as h cut and 2 pi nu is the angular frequency. So h nu is also written as h cut omega. So what is the definition of stimulated absorption or simply absorption? So it is the process in which the electromagnetic radiation, or you can say photon, the electromagnetic radiation of an appropriate frequency. So h is a constant, this h is a constant. This is the Planck's constant. So this frequency must be such that h nu is equal to EB minus EA. So this frequency must be such that h into nu should be equal to the difference in the energy levels of the atom. So this photon must be of some appropriate frequency. So in this case, in this process, the electromagnetic radiation of an appropriate frequency, which is corresponding to the energy difference between the two atomic levels, can pump the atom to its excited state. So this photon of a particular frequency, of an appropriate frequency, it will make this atom to go into its excited state after the absorption of this photon. So this is called as stimulated absorption. So now the rate of stimulated absorption, it depends upon some factors. So the rate of stimulated absorption, firstly it depends upon the energy density of radiation at frequency omega. So what do we mean by energy density? Energy density is the amount of energy present in unit volume of the photons which have frequency omega, or you can say of frequency nu. So that is the energy density, energy present in unit volume of the photons of frequency omega, where omega is nothing but equal to, so omega will be, so h nu is EB minus EA, and that is equal to h cut omega. So what will be omega? Omega will be equal to EB minus EA divided by h cut. So that will be omega. So this rate of stimulated absorption, it depends upon the energy density of the radiation at frequency omega, because only this omega frequency photons can make this atom to go to excited state. So if more the number of atoms are present, more the number of photons are present of this frequency, more will be the probability that stimulated absorption will occur. More will be the rate of stimulated absorption. So the rate of stimulated absorption depends upon energy density of radiation at frequency omega. So more are the number of photons at omega frequency present, more will be the rate of stimulated absorption. So these atoms, more number of atoms you can say will go to the excited state if more number of photons of omega frequency are present. So that is obvious. And second thing, the stimulated absorption depends upon, the second factor is that it depends upon the number of atoms that are present in the lower state, or you can say the ground state. So if atoms are present in the lower state, only then these atoms can go to the excited state. If no atom is present in the ground state, so there will be no absorption. So more the number of atoms are present in the lower state, or you can say the ground state, more will be the rate of stimulated absorption. So only then stimulated absorption can occur if some atoms are present in the ground state. So the rate of stimulated absorption depends upon the number of atoms in the lower state. So these are the two factors on which the rate of stimulated absorption depends upon. And this energy density of radiation at frequency omega is written as U of omega. So in some books it's also written as U omega, and in some books it's also written as rho of omega. So in different books you will find different notations of energy density. So we will just use this U of omega as energy density of radiation at frequency omega. And second thing is that it depends upon number of atoms in the lower state. So let's say if n1 number of atoms are present in lower state and n2 number of atoms are present in the excited state. So this rate of stimulated absorption will be proportional to n1. So rate of stimulated absorption is directly proportional to U of omega as well as it is directly proportional to n1. Now second is the spontaneous emission. Now the atom after going to the excited state. So in this excited state, the atom cannot stay for infinite time. So there is a lifetime up to which the atom can stay in this excited state because this level is unstable. So there is a chance that this atom, it will go to its ground state naturally. So this excited state, every excited state has some lifetime. So on an average this lifetime is about 10 power minus 8 seconds. So this atom which is in the excited state, it will make a transition to the lower state. This will make a transition to the lower state, and during this process it will emit a photon. Since it is lowering its energy, so the difference in energy will be released in the form of a photon, and this photon will have energy equal to h cut omega, or you can say h nu. So atoms in the energy state EB, which is the higher state, or you can say excited state, can make a spontaneous transition to the energy state EA with the emission of radiation of frequency omega, and this omega will be equal to EB minus EA divided by h cut. So from this relation omega will be equal to EB minus EA divided by h cut, because this photon, the energy of this photon will be equal to the difference in the energy levels of the atom. So this is the spontaneous emission. The atom, it goes to the ground state naturally before this lifetime. So this process occurs without any radiation. So there is no radiation which is stimulating, or you can say which is triggering this process. This process occurs on its own. So there is no external factor which is influencing this process. So therefore it is called as spontaneous. And the rate of spontaneous emission, this rate of spontaneous emission, it depends upon only one factor, and that is the number of atoms present in the excited state. So more the number of atoms present in the excited state, more will be the rate of spontaneous emission. So if no atom is present in excited state, there will be no spontaneous emission. Obviously, if some atoms are present in the excited state, only then spontaneous emission can occur. Therefore, the rate of spontaneous emission is directly proportional to number of atoms in the excited state, and that is equal to N2. Now, the last transition that we are going to study is the stimulated emission. Now, what is stimulated emission? So, firstly, the atom must be in the excited state. So, atom is in the excited state. So, there are two transitions that can occur over here. One is the spontaneous emission that we have just discussed on the previous page, and another one is the stimulated emission. So the spontaneous emission that we studied, it occurs without the influence of any photon. So it occurs on its own. It occurs naturally. But this stimulated emission occurs only in the presence of a photon. So when an atom is in the excited state, it can make a transition to the lower energy state through stimulated emission. So what happens in stimulated emission? One photon, this photon, it strikes an atom which is already present in the excited state. So this photon, it stimulates the emission of another photon. So this photon, it will trigger this atom. This photon will trigger this atom, and this atom will go to its ground state. Since it is going to its ground state, there is no kind of absorption present over here. There is just emission. So this atom will go to its ground state by the emission of a photon, whose energy is equal to the difference in the energy of these two levels, because atom is going from this EB energy state to this EA energy state. So the atom is going from its excited to the ground state in the presence of a photon. So this photon triggers this atom. This atom goes to its ground state by the emission of a photon, and this original photon, it remains as it is. It goes as it is. It just triggers this atom. This photon, it just triggers this atom, and after that it goes as it is. So the photon, this photon has energy equal to h nu, which is equal to the difference in the energy levels of the atom. So in the case of stimulated emission, you can see there is amplification. So here you have one photon which is coming in and two photons are going out. So when an atom is in the excited state, it can make a transition to the lower energy state through stimulated emission, in which an incident signal, this incident signal of appropriate frequency. So the energy of this photon must be equal to the difference in these two energy levels. So it must be of appropriate frequency. So it will trigger an atom in an excited state to emit radiation. So this photon triggers an atom in an excited state to emit radiation. And this radiation, or you can say the photon which is emitted, will have the same energy as that of the original one, because this original photon, this incoming photon, has energy equal to EB minus EA. This photon which is emitted due to the transition of the atom from excited to the lower state, this photon will also have the same energy which is equal to EB minus EA. So these two photons will have same energy. Then second thing is that these two photons will be coherent to each other. Then they will be emitted in the same direction, in one direction. That is, the photon which is emitted due to the transition of the atom will go in the same direction as that of this incoming photon. So there will be high directionality, high coherence and high monochromaticity. So this results in amplification of the incident beam. So here one photon is coming in and two photons are going out. So there is amplification. So this stimulated emission causes amplification of the radiation. Now, what is this rate of stimulated emission? On what factors does this rate of stimulated emission depends upon? As we had seen, the Stimulated absorption. Stimulated absorption, it depends upon two factors. So it is directly proportional to the energy density. Stimulated absorption, so it is directly proportional to the energy density of the photons at omega frequency. Then it is directly proportional to the number of atoms present in the lower state, because absorption occurs from lower state to the excited state. So it depends upon number of atoms present in the lower state. So if you remove this proportionality, we will insert a constant proportionality. You will remove this proportionality, then you have to insert a constant, and that will be B12. So this is one of the Einstein's coefficients. So B12 is actually the probability of the transition probability of stimulated absorption per unit time. So this B12, it represents the transition probability of stimulated absorption per unit time, and other factors will remain as it is. So this is the rate of stimulated absorption per unit volume. Now these N1 and N2 which we have talked about, N1 and N2, these are the atoms which are present in the lower and the excited state per unit volume. So N1 are the number of atoms present in EA energy state per unit volume. Then N2 are the number of atoms present in the excited energy state per unit volume. So you have a gain medium. So in a laser we use a particular gain medium. So in this gain medium the stimulated emission occurs. So all these three transitions occur, the stimulated absorption, spontaneous emission, and then stimulated emission. They all occur in this medium which is present inside the laser. So in unit volume, N1 number of atoms are present in lower state. Then in unit volume, N2 number of atoms are present in this excited state. So the rate of stimulated absorption per unit volume is equal to this term. And then is the spontaneous emission. The rate of spontaneous emission per unit volume is directly proportional to just the number of atoms present in the excited state. So you will remove this proportionality and you will insert a coefficient which is called as, this is also the Einstein's coefficient. So this will be A21. Over here the transition is occurring from first level to the second level. So here we are talking about absorption. So we use B12. So 12 represents the transition is from first energy level to second energy level. Then we have spontaneous emission. So here the transition occurs from higher state to lower state. So we write as A21. And N2 will remain as it is. These are the number of atoms present in the excited state per unit volume. And at last we have stimulated, the rate of stimulated emission per unit volume. The rate of stimulated emission per unit volume depends upon, first it will depend upon the energy density of radiation at frequency omega, because you can see that in stimulated emission there is a triggering. The photons, the external photon triggers the atom. This photon triggers the atom. So if more number of photons are present, more will be the rate of stimulated emission. So if no photon is present, let's say if no photon is present, so there will be no chance that stimulated emission will occur, because stimulated emission occurs only in the presence of a photon of appropriate frequency. So this rate of stimulated emission is directly proportional to the energy density of radiation at frequency omega, because omega is the appropriate frequency. So this is directly proportional to U of omega. So you can write it as U of omega. And second factor is that the rate of stimulated emission depends upon the number of atoms which are present in the excited state. So if, let's say, if no atom is present in the excited state, so there will be no chance that stimulated emission can occur, because in stimulated emission, transition of atom occurs from excited to the lower state. So if no atom is present in the excited state, there will be no stimulated emission. So for stimulated emission, the atom must be present in the excited state. So if more number of atoms are present in the excited state, more will be the rate of stimulated emission per unit volume. So it depends upon, it is directly proportional to N2. So N2 are the number of atoms present in the excited state per unit volume. So rate of stimulated emission per unit volume is directly proportional to U of omega. Then it is directly proportional to N2. So you will remove this proportionality, and here you will use another Einstein coefficient, which is written as B21, because transition is occurring from second level to the first level, and other factors, they will remain as it is. So these are the rate of transitions. First is the rate of stimulated absorption per unit volume, then is the rate of spontaneous emission per unit volume, and at last we have rate of stimulated emission per unit volume. So these are the different rates of different transitions. Now in the case of laser, what we want? Laser works on stimulated emission only. Laser works on only stimulated emission, because in laser what do we need? We need amplification of radiation. So amplification is only possible through stimulated emission. In the case of absorption, the photon is completely absorbed, so there is no amplification. Then in the case of spontaneous emission, the photon is emitted, but the photons which are emitted in case of spontaneous emission, they are incoherent and they never go in the same direction. So the photons which are emitted in the case of spontaneous emission, firstly they are incoherent, and secondly they go in random directions. So there is no directionality, high directionality possible due to spontaneous emission. High directionality is possible only in the case of stimulated emission, because in this case the photon which is emitted due to the transition goes in the same direction as that of the incoming photon. So there is high directionality in the case of stimulated emission. So for laser to work, there must be more stimulated emission that must be present. That is, we have to reduce the rate of stimulated absorption as well as spontaneous emission. So we have to reduce the rate of stimulated absorption as well as rate of spontaneous emission. And what we want? We want to increase the rate of stimulated emission for lasing action to occur. So let's say if you have some atoms which are present in the lower state, which is the EA energy state, and let's say there are N1 number of atoms present in the lower energy state, and in the excited energy state there are N2 number of atoms present. So let's say you have some photons which are striking these atoms. So there are three possibilities that can occur. First, some of these photons will be absorbed by these atoms. Some of the photons will be absorbed by these atoms in the lower state, and these atoms will go to the excited state after absorption of the photons. Then some of the atoms in the higher state or in the excited state will make a spontaneous emission. They will make a spontaneous emission from excited to the lower state, and photons will be emitted, and the photons which are emitted, they will not go in the same direction. So there are three possibilities. First is that absorption can occur. Second is that some of the atoms will undergo spontaneous emission to the lower state. Then at last, some of the atoms in the excited state will make a transition to the lower state through stimulated emission. So some of these photons, they will trigger these atoms in the excited state, and these atoms in the excited state will go to the ground state with the emission of another photon. So there are three possibilities. So in laser, what do we want? We want the rate of stimulation, the rate of stimulated emission to occur. The more rate of stimulated emission should occur as compared to the stimulated absorption and spontaneous emission. So this we will see in the upcoming lectures, that how the stimulated emission, this rate is increased as compared to the stimulated absorption and spontaneous emission. So in the next lecture we will discuss about these Einstein's coefficients. These Einstein coefficients, we will discuss about these ones, and we will find a relation between these coefficients using the Planck's law, that is the black body radiation, and using this concept which is given by Einstein. So in the next lecture we will discuss about these Einstein coefficients, and we will also see that how the rate of stimulated emission can be increased, or the probability of stimulated emission can be increased in case of laser.